Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Wednesday here on...
And this is the Old Man Wade Show, and I am Old Man Wade, the host of the Old Man Wade Show, and we're calling this what, Paul?
The Old Man Kronos Team Up. Although, I like Rob's idea. What was it? Power Drunk and Normal Fist?
I'm perfectly okay with Power Drunk and Normal Fist. I actually kind of like it. It's kind of dope.
I concur. It's good to see you, man. Been a while.
It's been a while. It's life, man. That's unfortunately when you're adults, life constantly gets in the way.
That it does. Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans.
You know what's funny is me, Maria, and one of our other friends are talking about how much we hate the East Coast. And within the next few years, I'll probably end up on your side of the continent.
Hey, man, it's not bad. I mean, dude, the weather here, you can't beat it. I think we maybe had 1 to 2 blizzards.
Yeah, we've had. I think you were here when we got hit really bad, right?
Maybe. I think. Oh, towards the end, I think I was flying out as it was getting kind of, apocalyptic.
So you missed. I think either you got the tail end of it, or but it's been pretty normal, quote unquote, for New England for the last few years. It's been funny because of that, the school system and the Boston government has been so scared that they've been canceling work, telling people not to go on if they don't have to, et cetera, and then we'll get a dusting.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if you remember this, but when I was a kid, I'm gonna go old man Paul for a second. When I was a kid, I feel like it had to be disastrous for us to get a day off. I remember walking to school with mounds of snow thinking, why didn't they fucking cancel this shit? And now it's a snowflake comes down. It's all right, shut it down, shut down the school system.
Yeah, do you remember hour and 2 hour delays?
Yeah.
I remember those and going, yes, it's going to be 4 people in class. That means sitting on the computer and playing just stupid games all day.
Right. And then most likely they let you leave earlier, whatever.
Yeah. And I remember it was one of those things where it would go, if you ride a bus, you have to stay. But if you're walking and your parents are okay with it, you can leave now.
Yeah. If your parents don't give a fuck, then we don't give a fuck. Walk your ass home.
Yeah, essentially. And I was a maybe 15-minute walk from my elementary school. I was an hour walk. I've actually walked home in a blizzard, which was not the smartest thing in the world. I've walked home from a blizzard when I was in middle school, and it took me about an hour and a half, which was usually normally a 45-minute walk.
Oh, wow.
But I was an idiot, so...
Oh, those experiences, they just make us stronger or stranger.
Yeah. Speaking of experiences that make you stranger, you know what experiences don't make you stranger? Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had this conversation, but what were your thoughts on the first 2 Fantastic Four movies?
Well, I think there's pros and cons. Actually, it's funny because I was talking about this to a friend of ours last night, where I really appreciated how the Thing wasn't CGI. I give a lot of credit to the fact that they built a suit. And I think in some ways, even though other parts of the film may not have aged well, the Thing looks great because he's actually standing in front of a camera and he's not computer generated. I also like the Michael Chiklis. I liked his performance, and I gotta say that I also enjoyed Chris Evans's Human Torch. The banter, the relationship between Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, I thought was spot on. Everything else, I didn't like. I didn't like Jessica Alba as Sue. I didn't like Horatio Hornblower as Reed Richards.
I'm shocked by that, actually.
Or that I didn't like it, or...
Yeah, I'm actually shocked you didn't like his performance as Mr. Fantastic.
I mean, maybe I have to watch it again. I'll say it this way: his performance doesn't stand out the way that Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis' performances do.
I agree with that 100%.
So I think that's what it comes down to. So but everything else I thought was shit. I can't believe they've not only fucked up Fantastic Four twice, but Doctor Doom twice. Doom being a troll, like an angry blogger, is awful.
That didn't even make any sense to me, to be honest with you.
A lot of that movie didn't make sense, and I thought it was dumb. And then and that whole thing with Reed Richards kind of being a coward and running away from the rest of the group, like, remember that when he just like flees? Like, I was like, no.
That's not Reed Richards. Reed Richards may be a lot of things. One thing he's not is a coward. He may do things he regrets later, but he is far from a coward.
He's an explorer, for Christ's sakes. Why would you make him like a coward? He's an explorer going into the unknown.
Okay, so I thought the relationship, and I loved, I shouldn't even say I loved the dynamic they have, the Fantastic Four. I don't remember the gentleman's name played Reed Richards because I'm terrible with those names. But I thought he captured everything about Reed Richards really well, like the awkwardness.
Which Fantastic Four are we talking about?
Oh, the first two.
Got it. Okay.
I thought he captured like the awkwardness of them, the intelligence of it. There was one scene where Sue says to him, "Oh, I'm not mad at you about that." He goes, "Oh, okay," and turns around and walks away. And I'm like, that's something he would do. I don't think they captured the reason I liked and didn't like Jessica Alba all at once was that she was the fantastic girl first. You know what I mean? All she did was turn invisible, which was, back in those days was, a thing. So there was no real growth for her. You know what I mean? It was already like she was the invisible woman. I thought it would have been cool if she showed her force field closer to the end as opposed to like immediately. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or even if it was like by accident she was using these force fields. But I think that the dynamic they had, I think they captured the family dynamic perfectly with the Fantastic Four movies, the first two.
Yeah.
But the dude who played Doctor Doom was so god awful that I will never forgive him for that.
Yeah, and that was let's see here, I'm pulling up his name, Julian McMahon.
Yes.
Also star of Nip Tuck.
Nip Tuck, and he was also, I think, a reoccurring character or a semi-reoccurring character in Charmed.
He was.
So it's like you'd figure that this is one of those situations where I feel like they try to do Ang Lee's Hulk with Doctor Doom and make him not what he was. And I like that in the beginning of it, Ben Grimm goes, "Come on, man, he's strip mall science."
Yeah. Also, can we talk about how the fact that fucking Kerry Washington was in these movies?
And even she couldn't do it. Even she couldn't help like what was going on there.
God. Yeah, it's just a shame, especially with the sequel, like with the fan. I mean, I will say I did like Silver Surfer.
They got the perfect person to voice the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, Morpheus there.
Norrin Rad. Excuse me? That is my name. Norrin Rad. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool how they did that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? He was like this, and like Reed was like this Silver Surfer. I'm like, I see what you did there. But then they give us this bullshit fucking Galactus.
Oh, he was a fart cloud.
Like, they were trying so hard to go with like the ultimate version of it, but if they would have showed us like a bunch of like mini robots or like mini bugs coming at the Earth, then I'd have been like, okay, this is different. I don't like it, but I accept it. But like you said, it was a fart cloud. That was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning was kind of cool, the way he was like flying around, going through, the Chrysler building, and how he would kind of be standing on the board, and then he would like segue through it and be standing upside down. It looked good.
I even like, one of my favorites was, "I found the planet. Make it quick."
Yeah.
So it was like, and I got so excited when they showed like the beginning of Doctor Doom, where he was talking to him and he still had the messed up face, and he was like, "I said, listen," and I was like, "Oh my God, we're getting the real Doctor Doom," and he sucks again.
Yep. God.
And then they tried to make Johnny Storm a Super Skrull.
Oh God.
And everyone talks about, I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine about like the best actors in all of comic books who've done performances, and I said, it's Chris Evans hands down. I'm not accepting any other answers other than Chris Evans because he's done two roles for two different movies. One of them didn't do that. They did well financially, but didn't do well critically.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has the whole Captain America franchise, which has obviously been like a moneymaker. So he played two separate roles and then played them both. I gotta say flawlessly.
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, like I said, but he was good, and I thought him and Michael Chiklis they had a really great chemistry together. And I kind of bought them as kind of being friends. Who it was like a brotherhood. Where like like Johnny, gives Ben a hard time, but Ben would do anything for him,
Like my favorite was, how do you two?
Hold on 1 second. Domino's running off with a rogue something.
All right.
I don't know. Sorry, it's like babysitting a fucking drunk, hairy toddler. So you're saying we were talking about Ben and Johnny Storm there,
but just to your point that like I think I agree with you 100% that this was one of those things where they really they understood what they were getting with the two of them. I feel like the writers and the directors understood the dynamic between Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, and it was like that moment when he goes and he was talking to when Johnny was talking to Ben, and he was like, hey, you and Alicia seem to be hitting it off well. He goes, and Ben was like, yeah. He goes, how the two of you? That's none of your business.
Yeah.
But it's cool because I understand it. He goes, I'm just asking because I don't want her to die in an avalanche. And it was just one of those things where like, I get it. I completely understand that. And it was like, and those are conversations that Ben and Johnny would have because they have these dumbass, awkward conversations. You know what I mean? So
true.
It's just funny that like they would have such a cast and still manage to like screw it up. But I honestly think that they should just move away from Doctor Doom, man.
I think so too. I would agree with that. Yeah, that they just need to tone it down. I would do Mole Man.
Oh my God! Thank you.
I would have Mole Man be in it, and I think just take like the Batman Begins route, like where you do a villain that nobody's seen. The way Spider-Man Homecoming touched Vulture, do a villain no one has seen before.
Yeah, we don't need Norman Osborn, and we don't need the Joker immediately. I think the only time that's actually worked for anybody has probably been the X-Men, which we can talk about later, and Batman with Michael Keaton. Otherwise, like you got to go with a lesser-known villain before you, build up the anticipation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just don't understand how hard it must have been to find a blonde actress in Hollywood. I mean, Jessica Alba, I like still can't get over it.
She wasn't bad. I thought the chemistry wasn't terrible, but I still think there are some things that I think she could have did better. But I don't blame her because I think she did the best she could with the role she was given.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like, for example, Halle Berry as Storm was awful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everyone talks about that line. Do you know what happens to a toad that's struck by lightning? Here's my thing about that. The right actress could have delivered that line, and we all would have just been in awe.
And let's not forget that the director plays a role in that too, because Joss Whedon wrote that line. So if Joss Whedon had been directing the movie, he probably would have been able to convey, this is how I heard it in my head when I wrote it. Here is how I need you to say it.
Yeah. And it's a perfect example. Like me and my buddy, a buddy of mine asked me a question about Black Panther and whether or not the movie could have been done well if it wasn't a black director. And I said, it could have been done just as well. I'm like, it helps that the cast and the director was black. But a lot of things that have to do with it is you have to have these actors, these actresses, these directors, and these writers that actually give a shit about the character. They actually have to actually care about this movie. And honestly, the only people who I think actually cared about their roles were Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. I don't think anybody else cared about. I think Hugh Jackman tried really hard, but it took him 9 movies to get it right.
Yeah.
And even like with Wolverine Origins, I thought he was great in Wolverine Origins, but there was just so much else wrong with that movie.
Yeah.
That like even he couldn't say it. And then they did like Hugh Jackman was a perfect example of, I think he's one of the top 10 best actors we've had in the last 2 decades. Because if you give him a performance, he will be a 10 with what you give him.
Oh, yeah.
But he was not a 10 as Wolverine. And a buddy of mine said it best. It shouldn't have taken him X amount of years to get a character right that he's been playing for so long.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I thought his performance was pretty... Because I recently rewatched all the movies, all the X-Men movies, and I always thought his performance was consistent. I didn't like when I rewatched the first X-Men movie. There's a lot that needed work. There's a lot that hasn't aged well. But I thought Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, and Hugh Jackman were like the strongest 3 components of that movie.
I will debate that and say I think the guy who played Cyclops was actually a lot better than Hugh Jackman was.
James Marsden.
I just don't think he was given enough lines. One of my favorites was when Wolverine grabs him and goes, "Hey, bub, you want to get out my way?" And Cyclops looked at Xavier like, he's got about 2 seconds before I optic blast him into into New Jersey.
Yeah.
And even the end of it where he's sitting there with like holding the optic blast, he goes, "I got a shot. I'm taking it." It was like those are leader qualities that we both know that Cyclops has.
Oh yeah.
And it was like they did it in that movie, but then missed it every time after that.
Oh yeah. No, I mean his role just shrank and shrank and shrank. I mean literally. I mean it just got smaller and smaller. To the point where they just literally just wrote him out. But I'd be curious though, what is there anything about Hugh Jackman's performance that stands out in the beginning where you felt like this isn't Wolverine, or he's not acting to the best of his ability?
It's not the beginning though, which is funny. I thought he was great in the first Wolverine. I thought he was what we'd expect from Wolverine, like just joining the team and all the other stuff. And the way he talked to Rogue will be the way he would talk to like Kitty Pryde.
Right.
I thought the second one, the reason I didn't like it is because Wolverine can be a leader. He's been a leader in the comic books. We've seen it, but he wasn't the type of leader that we saw in the second and third one. Like, he leads by example. He doesn't do big speeches because big speeches make him awkward.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was a problem. So, I think that...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, because that sounds more like writing criticism than acting.
Absolutely. I think that Hugh Jackman was great with what he was given.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
But
I agree with you on that score.
Because you could look at him and see this is the direction they wanted him to go in. So that's the direction he went. But that doesn't make it good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, let's always bring up an example. Ray Stevens in The Punisher. Mm-hmm. I think he's one of the top, maybe, I would say top 20 people who have performed a comic book movie and performed just the character well. Not the movie, just specifically the character.
Yeah.
I would say he's top 20. My problem with that is it's like you get that one character well, that doesn't mean the rest of the movie's crap.
Right.
And Wolverine Origins, people always talk about how bad it was. It was fun. The Blob was good. Sabretooth was great. Wolverine did what he was supposed to do. And then you get all this other random stuff in there that was just like, wow, this is really kind of bad. And then you end it with Baraka Pool. And it's like, wow, you just completely fucked up a character that everyone loved.
Yeah, I think that was when I was like, there are certain things I could like forgive. But when it got to Deadpool, I mean... he's the merc with a mouth, and you took his fucking mouth away.
Like, I think they were trying their best to be ironic, and they failed horribly. Like, they did all of that just for this one joke. I guess he found a way to shut you up. And I'm like, ugh. Like, just for that one joke? Come on, man.
Yeah. Just, good God.
But I will say this: there were some bright spots with the X-Men. An underrated part of the X-Men, I will say, was Rebecca Romijn as Mystique.
Oh, she was great.
I think people don't appreciate really how great she was as Mystique. She, like, the facial expression, like, she's on the computer doing something, and they asked her a question, and she just rolled her eyes and went, "No." Like, why? How dare you even ask me a question?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Wasting my time with that nonsense.
Yeah, like, she was great about it. Like, everything about her. I thought Rebecca Romijn played the role of Mystique better than a million times better than Jennifer Lawrence did. Who I honestly think Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique was trash.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have Ian McKellen, who, even when he didn't speak, the mannerisms of when he moved, when he did things, like the X3. One of the best parts about it was Juggernaut going, "How are we getting across? Because I don't swim." And then Magneto just stood up, flicked his tape, and then just moved the bridge with his hands. It was like, wow, that was great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, he was I think Ian McKellen might have been the best part of all three of those movies.
I mean, I think, you know, I would definitely say he's one of the best parts because you know, you have a classically trained Shakespearean actor playing, you know, characters with these Shakespeare-like qualities, and I think for me it's a dance because the performance of Xavier is just as important as, you know, Magneto. So I feel like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, they were just the perfect dance partners. I thought that they complemented each other well because even in that first movie, they portray the performance where they're able to convey a past between the two. Without ever having to comment on the past. You just know that there's history between the two.
Are you into searching? I'm searching for hope.
Yeah.
And it was just moments like that, you know what I mean? And it was great. And it's funny because if you look at it, there wasn't a lot of Xavier in any of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
In the first one, he was laid out. In the second one, he was laid out. In the third one, he, quote unquote, died.
He turned into a fart cloud.
Huh?
He turned into a fart cloud.
He did turn into a fart cloud. But yeah, man, like, so, and don't get me started on, and like, I have lamented about how bad Halle Berry was as Storm. And a lot of people may not know this, but Angela Bassett was up for the role as Storm.
Oh, man.
The reason being was, and it wasn't her agent wanted more money. And because her agent wanted more money, and whoever was in charge of, like, finance didn't want to give her said money, they went with Storm. And I think that was. I wonder how much of a difference it would have made if Angela Bassett would have been Storm instead of Halle Berry. And I also have a dark horse, and I can never remember her name. She was.
I just want to say that's Mark. That's racist. Dark horse.
I see what you did there. What? I can't remember her name. She was in I Think I Love My Wife. She was Morpheus's girlfriend and wife in The Matrix. Was also his ex-wife.
Jada Pinkett Smith?
No, that's Will Smith.
Oh.
I Think I Love My Wife. The actress's name is Gina Torres. I think Gina Torres also would have been a strong choice for Storm. Like, she was in Firefly.
Oh, she would have been a good Storm.
Just someone who has just the presence of, like, they walk on screen and they're just that strong. You know what I mean? Someone who can deliver those lines that Storm gives in a way that, like, captivates the audience. Halle Berry doesn't do that.
Yeah. No, you're right. She would have been a good Storm. You know, and I think it would have been okay to get an unknown.
My uncle always,
Or try this on for size, my friend. What if you got a actress who is naturally talented, naturally black, from Africa?
Paul, there's no way that works. Name one movie where that's actually worked.
Sadly, I can't think of any. But I mean, it'd
be like finding a Black Panther.
Oh, right, that one. Right, yeah. Sorry, I'm still in a state of disbelief how fucking good that movie was.
You know, you're gonna laugh when I say this. My uncle used to say Strong J. Should have played Storm.
Oh, okay. That's
Strong J, maybe Iman. Like,
oh, you know what I mean? Wait. Can I just tell you I have a crush on Iman? She's devastatingly beautiful.
With your David Bowie thing, I am not shocked by that at all.
Yeah. Hey, man, David Bowie. That's the only reason. Yeah.
Call Iman. Tell her I'm on tour.
But no, I just think. I mean, that was the beauty. Like, you look at Star Wars, like the original 1977 Star Wars. You know, Sir Alec Guinness, who played Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Peter Cushing, who played Grand Moff Tarkin, they were the only really people who you had seen in another movie before. Like, you never really saw Mark Hamill or Carrie Fisher. You probably saw Harrison Ford once in American Graffiti, but for the most part, they were unknowns. Like, and I wish Hollywood would kind of embrace that again.
I used to know a woman who always used to say that whenever you do a comic book movie, it should always be an unknown. Because it's or not necessarily someone you don't know, but someone who's not an A-list actor or actress. That's one of the reasons why I think the Avengers worked as well as it did, because we didn't really have any A-list actors. Robert Downey Jr. was on his way out of Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Evans was people still didn't know how great Chris Evans was yet. We didn't know, like Scarlett Johansson was Scarlett Johansson, but she's still B-list, C-list maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's been boosted up because of the Avengers. Mm-hmm. And let's look at Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman has become A-list because of Black Panther, but he's always been predominantly black roles. He chooses his roles selectively, like very selectively. Mm-hmm. He was James Brown. He was Thurgood Marshall. He was Black Panther. He was Jackie Robinson. So he chooses these roles very carefully. Look at look at Hugh Jackman. Like, he was on the scene, but like he was also one of those guys who was smart enough to realize Marvel Comics is Marvel Fox is my bread and butter, but it also allows him to do movies like the BattleBot movie. It allowed him to do
Real Steel.
Real Steel. It allows him to do Les Miserables, which was a great movie. It allows him to do all these other movies that he wants to because he's still getting a payday from these Marvel movies. You know what I mean?
And that's something I always liked about Hugh Jackman, is that he is like eternally grateful for what the role of Wolverine has done for his career. Like, you have some actors who like forget that they were ever in these types of movies, but not Hugh Jackman. Like, you know, it's like he makes it a point to say hello to every fan that's around him, because he's like, without these people, I would not be where I am. And I love him for that. You know, that he's never, at least to my knowledge, never been.
Oh, we would have heard. Trust me, we would have definitely heard about it if he was a dick to somebody. We would have known.
Yeah,
because it had been Wolverine was a dick to Thair and
right.
You know what I mean? So we would have known. But I think that's what makes a lot of characters special. I mean, like, you've heard the reports of Ryan Reynolds dressed up as Deadpool going to like San Diego Comic-Con and not telling anyone he was there, and then goes on stage and like, hey, it was me this whole time. You know what I mean? So that's kind of cool when you have a person who loves the character they're doing the way they do. So that, I think that helps a lot as well.
Oh, totally. Totally. But I think, X-Men, oh, God. I just keep having all these ideas about how I would do the X-Men if I ever got that directing gig, like how I would tell that story. Like, I always thought, because I don't know if I told you this, but I started rereading the X-Men, like, from the very, very beginning, like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. And I'm currently now, and I've stayed with it, granted, it's taken a while, I'm now in the 80s X-Men.
Jesus, it's been like half a year.
And, yeah, it's a lot. And I just think, like, you have such great source material. How did we get the movies that we got? And especially with funny? Like, I still don't understand why you didn't have a movie with the original five: Iceman, Angel, Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey. Like,
I don't think that the companies had enough faith in the Marvel. I don't think they had enough faith in comic book movies yet, because without, like, I think Blade was the character that we took that people were shocked at how well it did. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, people actually care about this. Yeah. So we always talk about the X-Men and we talk about Robert Downey Jr. I'm like, but people forget, without Blade, you guys wouldn't have gotten any of this. So let's call it what it is.
Right.
But I don't think that they had enough faith with an X-Men movie without Wolverine. But to your point, the way they brought Hugh Jackman into Wolverine Apocalypse would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Because you still get Wolverine, and you get him the way that everyone loves him. So let's say he doesn't show up in the second one, but then he shows up in the third one because of everything that happened in the second one. The first one.
Honestly, I would still be fine with the original lineup plus Wolverine. Like, if you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I love Wolverine. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. He's one of my 2 or 3 favorite characters ever. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But my issue with that is, and this is something that we agree on, the X-Men are not Wolverine. The X-Men are Cyclops. Cyclops is the X-Men. And I don't know if you've been reading X-Men Gold, but Kitty Pryde has done a damn good job as the new Cyclops. Mm-hmm. I think she's taken the role as leader of mutants well. But the reason it's worked as well as it did is because she started doing this when she was 13 years old. You know what I mean? So she has gone through Cyclops as a leader, Storm as a leader.
I've been meaning to ask this because I'm so behind on Marvel right now. And I know there was, like, the resurrection of Jean Grey and all that. Like, so did you read that?
No.
Because here's my question. Are there now 2 Jean Greys? Is there the Jean Grey that died and the Jean Grey from the past that are now coexisting? Okay.
Yes. But there's been a rumor that they're going to kill the young Jean Grey, or she's going to, like, disappear. So, like, that's been a rumor that's been going around the internet. I don't know how true it is, but.
And then young Cyclops is still hanging around. So I think it's just weird that now you're gonna have an older Jean Grey and a young Cyclops.
I feel that this is going to be how they set up a relationship between Wolverine and Jean Grey. A relationship that I don't necessarily agree with, because I've always felt that I've always felt that Wolverine and Storm were the ones who were meant to be together.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree with that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going somewhere with it. It's X-Men Red. And when X-Men Resurrection or Jean Grey Resurrection comes on Marvel Unlimited, I'll read it. But until then, man, honestly, I don't. Like we talked about earlier about, like, life getting in the way, man. It's just not really one of my expenses.
Yeah, I get it. I was just curious because I'm so behind on X-Men and actually a lot of Marvel stuff, because Marvel, I think, not all of its titles, but I mean, some of it just took a nosedive for me, and I just sort of checked out.
A lot of it's taken a nosedive, and I'm one, and I have Defenders just ended, but was on Brian Michael Bendis' last run. One of his last runs in Marvel was the Defenders, which I thought was great. It embodied everything that Bendis was. And one of my favorite parts of that series was he was in handcuffs. And he turned around, looked at the screen, and goes, "A 17-year bit is not something easily done." And I was like, "Oh, I see what you did there." Something like he'd always done with, like, Ultimate Spider-Man with these random characters. I'm like, all right, cool. So you know what you're doing. And and again, this goes back to the Black Panther thing I just said. I don't know if a lot of these writers really have the passion to write these characters, because you look at the gentleman who wrote the Luke Cage series that got canceled. I love Luke Cage. Again, one of my top 5 characters. And that series was horrible. Mm-hmm. But the writer is actually really good. But I just don't know whether or not he had the passion for it, or if the company wanted him to go in another direction. Were they trying to promote something for the Netflix series coming out in June? But regardless of what it was, it just wasn't that good.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I guess they can't all be home runs, which is
Unfortunate, but
yeah.
it is what it is, man. But I don't know, man. Like, it's unfortunate. I got a question for you. What was, and I'm going to ask you a moment. What was your favorite moment from Fox, Sony, or New Line? So that's X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, or Blade. Do you have a moment or a movie that would like be your favorite in between all of them?
That's tough. I mean, so it's New Line, Sony, and Fox, right?
New Line, Sony, and Fox.
I don't know. I think Blade might be the number one because I mean I feel like the first Blade is just still phenomenal. It's aged so well. I mean there's parts of X-Men that I love. I think probably for pure nostalgia purposes, but I think in the game of how movies have aged, I think Blade's number one.
It's funny, I have a hard time debating that because Blade 1 was so great.
Yeah.
The villain, and people forget about how great the villain was in that.
Deacon Frost.
Deacon Frost, oh my god, he was so great. And then the final fight scene they had, was great. And then once Blade 1, it's like everybody should have that one line. Every great superhero should have that one line. In Blade's line, some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate up him. And then the way he finished them after that, it was like, that is what we're looking for. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, you take the first Avengers movie, when Captain America goes, I need people here, here, there, and there. And then the cops goes, why should we listen to you? Then one of the Chitauri come out.
Yeah.
He takes them all out and he goes, all right, we need people
here,
here, and there. It was like, that's what it means, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
So, like,
great moments.
So what did you think about the... All right, just hit pause real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, give me like 45 seconds.
All right, I will go as well.
Oh, back pain.
I may have to go watch Blade now.
All right, let me know when you want me to unpause it.
Okay, unpause.
I paused. I just want to point out that, and I'm going to say this just because it was kind of funny, and nerds will understand this. So me and Paul had to pause because we both had to go pee, and we had a Scrubs moment where Turk was like, "We're on the same pee schedule."
Yeah. Oh God, good stuff.
Yeah, man. So, but like Blade was one of those great movies that I think a lot of us don't really remember because the third one was kind of bad. I loved it, but it was kind of bad. And Ryan Reynolds, this is where Ryan Reynolds proved that he could be Deadpool.
Yeah, and it's for that reason that I'll always have a soft spot in my heart. That and I'm trying to think of the actress's name there. Was it Park? What's her name? Oh shit, Jessica, not Jessica Parker. What the hell?
Jessica Biel.
Not Jessica Biel. It was the other vampire there, the one that he calls a cock juggling.
Thunder C-word.
Yes.
Oh man, I love her. And it was funny because I love she goes, "Have you been eating enough fatty acids?"
Yeah.
Her name was Survey Says. To see if you got it right. Why can't I find it? Wow. It wasn't Jessica Biel. Parker Posey.
Thank you, Parker Posey. I knew Park was in there.
Fun fact: she was born a day after me. She's November 8th. I'm November 7th.
Of the same year?
Yeah. No.
I was like, wowzers.
But yeah, man. Blade was one of those great underrated movies that people don't really think about when they talk about the best comic book movies. I think Blade 1 should be maybe one of the 5 or 10 movies that we always bring up.
Yeah.
I think people forget how great Sin City was. Mm-hmm. I think people forget how great V for Vendetta was. Me personally, I didn't appreciate Watchmen until I've seen Watchmen twice. I watched it for a third time last year on Labor Day, and with everything going on in our world, I loved it so much more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The symbolism of everything, and I really appreciated what the comedian was like. You know, not the rapist part of him,
right?
But just like everything when he was like, "It's all a joke, man. Like you just don't get it. It's all a joke."
Yeah,
and like how someone with no powers could take out a guy who was essentially built with the Infinity Gauntlets inside of him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a comic I actually wouldn't mind rereading.
That's actually one of the few movies I like better than a comic book.
Interesting. Why is that?
I don't really, you're not going to laugh when I say this. I don't have a legitimate reason. I can honestly... I can honestly just admit that, like, it's just one of those things where I don't have a legitimate reason for it. I read The Watchmen and I enjoyed it, but I liked the movie so much better. Maybe it was just because seeing everything in action is just, I thought was better than reading it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like V for Vendetta, I loved. The book, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's this one scene I always talk about when I talk about the book. There's a scene. Have you read the book?
I have. Yeah, I actually have one of the DC Absolute editions of it. I think I liked V for Vendetta as a book more than Watchmen.
And it was like they made V this like really crazy character. And there's this one scene that always sticks in my head where he's like talking to Lady Liberty before he blows her up. Mm-hmm. Like how disappointed he was in her and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I wish you could have put this in this movie. I understand why they didn't, but it was such a powerful scene. And everything with Evie wasn't like it was, you know what I mean? But there's only about so much time you can have in a movie to do that.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, if I had to pick the best comic book movie of all time, I would probably go V for Vendetta. And not even just like, and I'm not talking adaptation, because we're talking adaptation, that's a whole other different story. But if I had to pick the best comic book movie, I'd probably go V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
And the second Sin City movie never happened.
Oh God, I was so disappointed with the second Sin City.
Chris Maloney left Special Victims Unit to be in Sin City for 4 seconds.
Ugh, that's too bad.
But I will say this though, Fox. What do you think of the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire?
You know, I like him, and I think it's probably because just the magic of seeing Spider-Man on the big screen for the first time. I mean, they're not perfect, but I think people. I don't think they give Spider-Man 2 enough credit, because there's some people who are like, I don't get why we're on Spider-Man 2. I'm like, well, because that was so focused on the character and not, action for the sake of action.
I agree. I thought they were terrible Spider-Man movies. I thought they were amazing Peter Parker movies.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's something you always bring up that I always have to remind people. The guy who played Dr. Octopus was absolutely spectacular.
Alfred Molina. So good.
Pun intended. His good Dr. Octavius and then switching to bad Dr. Octavius was great.
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn.
Oh, he was amazing. I loved his Norman Osborn.
Like, there's a scene that I always tell everyone, like, if you want to know what acting looks like, watch Spider-Man 1 where Willem Dafoe is talking to himself in the mirror, and he goes from regular Norman to crazy or Norman and back and forth. Like, that is acting.
Mm-hmm.
He literally was going back and forth between personalities, and like the way, like his face would go from really big smile back to really insecure Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is acting.
Yeah, he had great range.
Here's a good one for you. But let's move away from Fox and Sony while we have a little bit of time. Who is, and I wrote a piece about this, and we will probably differ. Who do you think is the best villain that we have seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And this is including the Netflix series.
That's tough. If we're including Netflix, I mean, I think for me, it would come down to Kingpin and Vulture.
Wow, you put Vulture that high?
Yeah, I really loved Vulture. I think, and here's ultimately where I grade the villain. If you can make me root for him more than the hero, I think you're doing a good job as a writer.
You got it there, because I wrote my villain. I've had people talk to. I've had debates and I've had discussions about me putting the Vulture in the top 8, and I'm like, Michael Keaton portrayed a character who you had to be sympathetic for.
Mm-hmm.
Like that first scene, it was like he was the little guy who came in and put up his own. People forget he put up his own money.
Right.
For the people to work the project, excuse me, the equipment to finish the project, and then this big corporation, Damage Control, comes in and takes it right from under him, like it was nothing. So what do you do when you're a guy who has a family to feed?
Right. It's very Walter White, Breaking Bad.
Shit, yeah. Great comparison. Pat yourself on the back of that.
Thank you. But you know what I also liked about his introduction, right? When you first see the Vulture, what is he holding? He's holding a drawing that his daughter made. Like, how more vulnerable can you get as, introducing your villain? It's like, oh, he's a family man. Like, he's discussing about how great his daughter is as an artist at work to his coworkers. That it says so much about the guy in that first scene, Yeah. It establishes the motivation, like his depth, And
when he had an opportunity to give him up at the end, he was just like, I have no idea who he is.
And honestly, that's ultimately, I think, what really kind of nudged the character into my number 1 slot, because he's a villain with a moral compass still.
Yeah, and I think when people hear villain, villain obviously has a negative connotation because you're a bad guy. Right. But I think that people forget the word antagonist, which is a word I try to use. I try to use the word antagonist a lot because of Venture Brothers, and not even just because of Venture Brothers, but also because of Wreck-It Ralph. Just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are bad guy.
Yes,
Vulture was a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. Punisher is a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. You know what I mean? So you look at it. You look at the Vulture in the Spider-Man Homecoming story, and He's just a guy trying to like maintain everything that he had.
Right.
Was he doing things that were good? No. Was he probably going to sell these weapons to people he shouldn't have sold them to? Yes. But I would like to challenge anyone and go, would you not do the same thing for your family if you could?
Oh yeah, I mean, no, it's if anything, I always felt like Spider-Man was the antagonist because he was always just getting in his way. Like Vulture never went out of his way to fuck with Peter. You know what I mean? It was like Peter's like, hey, I need to prove myself. I mean, he was like this like annoying fly rather than a spider.
I agree, and it was like I love the scene where he goes, "Oh, let me guess, you're just a robot," and Tony Stark pops out. It was like,
oh, that was great.
You just got caught having a party and your dad showed up.
Yeah, no, it was just really, really well done, and I loved the twist that Peter's crush, her dad, is the Vulture, and talk about moments of great acting. That car ride to the school.
Oh my god. When he turned around and goes, I will kill you.
But here's the thing, though, that I really got to applaud Michael Keaton for. And that performance, he's conveying a lot because he's being so, like, sweet to his daughter, but it almost comes across as, like, a lot's happening in that scene because you can see how his daughter is interpreting it one way and Peter is interpreting it another. Because, to her it might come across like, oh, my sweet dad being dad, and Peter's like, oh my god, he wants to have a talk with me? Like, fuck, like, is he gonna kill me? Like, it was just so great. Just, and then how quickly that it just merged to full on, like, you know what, and I love too about that scene is that he acknowledges what Peter did. He's like, listen, you saved my daughter, and that's like a debt I can never pay off.
Yeah.
Like I loved that, and I was like, Peter, I just saved your life. Say thank you. Like that was great. Like just the command and the power. And can I also say one last thing about this?
Go on.
Kudos to Marvel for not killing him off, knowing that we could get.
Thank you.
I mean, if we can get a Sinister Six, I would be.
Can I also say that we really need an ultimate Matt Gargan? We don't need the Matt Gargan with the scorpion tail. I want Miles Morales, ultimate Matt Gargan, who's just some guy on like whatever he's on, and just this really tough guy with a chain, with the end of the chain looks like a scorpion tail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be cheesy. So let me ask you a question. Did you enjoy Spider-Man Homecoming?
Oh, I loved it. That was the Spider-Man movie we always needed and deserved, I think.
I agree with you. 100%. Like whenever someone asks me why I liked it, I said to them, it was like watching a Spider-Man comic in action. Everything about it was exactly what I want.
He is a neighborhood Spider-Man. He's giving directions and like he's like a man of the people, like street level.
He loved, like he was excited, to be Spider-Man. Oh, I did this, and a woman gave me a churro, and like he was so excited just to be a hero. And then when Aunt May found out who he was, it was perfect. So let me ask you a question. Why do people not like that movie? Which forms into the next question. It had a 70 to 75% drop weekend one and weekend two. What was it about it that people just didn't like? Because I've seen it a few times, and every time I watch it, I like it more.
Yeah. Honestly, I think. And I'm going to have to try to think about this from a perspective of someone who's not as dedicated as we are. There may just be people who was like, we've had 5 Spider-Man movies. Why am I going to go fucking see a 6th one? I don't know. And that's like, I could be way off base. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I don't really even have a clear-cut theory as to why there was such a huge drop in the numbers, but I just wonder if there was Spider-Man fatigue. Like I was actually talking to somebody about a year or so ago, and I was saying how I am so excited for Doctor Strange. So excited. And
I think is one of the top. I think he is as close to perfect in the MCU as Robert Downey Jr. was as Tony Stark.
He's great. And the movie hadn't even come out yet, and I said, I cannot wait for Doctor Strange. And my buddy went, yeah, but I'm really more excited for Spider-Man. And I'm like, dude, we've had 5 Spider-Man movies. We haven't had a Doctor Strange. So
You know what's funny?
I don't know if maybe the way I was thinking kind of had the same feel towards people not going to see it. I don't know.
But it's funny, like we talked about earlier about how like not bringing in like the main antagonist is a bad thing, and it's like with the Andrew Garfield made Spider-Man, which I enjoyed. Andrew Garfield, because I think he was, if you're comparing Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield, if you combine the two of them, you'd have the perfect Spider-Man. You'd have a guy who plays Peter Parker perfect,
Yep.
and a guy who plays Spider-Man perfect.
Yeah, I thought Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was too cool.
Yeah, it was. He was almost like.
I mean, there's no way this kid's getting made fun of in high school. There is no fucking way. I didn't buy it. He was a great, confident Spider-Man when the mask was on, but I never felt bad for him. And you're supposed to feel bad for Peter in the beginning. And Tobey Maguire, he fucking nailed it when it came to just being pathetic. And I mean that in like as an actor, like in the best way possible.
You're 100% right. Now, if Andrew Garfield was portraying a 25-year-old Spider-Man, it would have been perfect.
Right, yes.
25-year-old Spider-Man had already been Spider-Man, and so on and so forth. And so that would have worked out a little bit better. Like, he's a teacher, he's a little more confident in himself. It would have been more like the J. Michael Straczynski Spider-Man as opposed to the Spider-Man that we're seeing when he was a teenager. You know what I mean?
Right.
Andrew Garfield would have made more sense as Civil War Spider-Man than Child Spider-Man, as opposed to Tom Holland, who I honestly think got it perfect on both ends.
Oh, yeah, totally. And you know what I love is that I got goosebumps the first time I saw that second Civil War trailer, not only because of seeing Spider-Man, but the fact that he sounds like a fucking kid. Where he's like, hey, everyone. I was like, oh, my God. That's not like a 20-something pretending to be 16. Like, he actually sounds like this could be a kid in high school. Yeah, I loved it. Because that's the Peter Parker that I've been waiting for.
And here's a moment with one of your favorite characters, Captain America, when Cap tricks him and he has to hold up the truck and he goes, "Where you from?" He goes, "Queens." And Cap looks at him, smiles, and goes, "I'm from Brooklyn."
Yeah.
And it was just like it's moments like that made that movie great. You know what I mean? That made Spider-Man great.
Mm-hmm.
Or when it was like that really old movie where
the walking thingy.
and
Jesus, Johnny, how old is this kid? I don't know. I didn't carbon date him.
Oh, shout out to Lavelle who was talking about this, and he goes he was talking about thank God that Terrence Howard got too big for his britches and we got Don Cheadle.
It's so, you know, it's funny, and I actually commented on Lavelle's post because some of the things Terrence Howard says in that movie doesn't make any sense. Or he's like, oh, you know what? Let me know when you need a diaper changed, and I'll get you a bottle. I'm like, you don't fucking change a diaper with a bottle? What the hell's wrong with you?
Shut the fuck up, Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
But it's not even like Terrence Howard is a bad actor. He is just not Rhodey. Don Cheadle was perfect as Rhodey.
You know that they actually offered it to him first and he turned it down?
Are you serious?
Yes. And then with the success of Iron Man, they're like, hey, we need a War Machine. Do you think maybe you made a mistake and you wanted to have a second chance?
he goes, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Was he doing House of Lies at the time?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the reasoning behind why he didn't take it, but I just think it's funny that, you know. And I actually always love how they address it in the movies. Like Don Cheadle, she shows up at court. He's like, it's like, what does he say? He's like, you know, like, yeah, I'm here. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. Like it was almost like suggesting, like yes, I'm a different person. It is what it is.
It's like the Will Smith mother moment where it's like, wait. You're not the mother from last season,
right?
But yeah. it makes a lot of sense, man. Like Don Cheadle plays the hell out of his role. Like he challenges Tony the way Rhodey would, and portrays it that way. Like the whole you need to expand your mind. That's not if he didn't deliver that line the way I feel that like Rhodey would have. I don't think that but everything that Don Cheadle did as War Machine makes sense. You know what I mean? And he acted out the way the writers wrote it, and portrayed it the way the directors wanted him to do it. So it was perfect. Like my favorite moment, I have a delivery for Tony Stank, and he goes, oh, you're Tony Stank from here on in. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's how Rhodey would say it. That's how War Machine would portray it, and that's exactly what it would be. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And honestly, it makes me really excited for what we're gonna see from Don Cheadle in the next Infinity Wars. I can't wait to see how he's going to be, what he's gonna do in this.
You know, honestly, man, I hope we get an Iron Machine. A War Machine movie. I would love to have like a Rhodey movie.
I have bad news for you. I think he's gonna die.
You think so?
I think we're getting Civil War 2. Thanos punch through the chest. He dies in this. Can we also? My buddy Super Woke Hobby, he brought up something that a lot of people forget. Thanos is not an idiot. Thanos is Batman level smart when it comes to creating like inventions. Right. He's probably smarter than Batman because the technology they use intergalactically is better than the technology we're using here on Earth. Mm-hmm. So people forget that Thanos is actually really smart when it comes.
You know, and Thanos in that way is interesting because you look at him, he kind of looks like a big dumb brute, but he's not. You know, he kind of has the perfect arsenal even without the Infinity Gauntlet. You know, like the intelligence, the strength, and you know that lack of morality to kind of get the things done. And one thing I really hope that they do with the movie is that they have to really build up on, because you know they always call him the Mad Titan, but he can't be like cuckoo caca crazy. Like he's gonna be like a calculated insane. Like, listen, I have to destroy half of the universe in order for it to fully thrive and survive. You know, like I want like a Ra's al Ghul type, like in Silver Surfer. Like when Thanos, you know, it was foretold that Silver Surfer would get in the way of Thanos' mission. You know, and Death tells him like, you know, everyone's living too long, everyone's cheating me, and it's overcrowding. And, you know, it's not, people aren't going to die the way that they're meant to, and it's going to create an imbalance. And so Thanos is like, I'm not killing everyone, I'm only taking care of half because of this overpopulation. They're draining all the resources. You know, not only are people going to die, but the system they're living in are going to die. And in that way, it's like, okay, it's fucked up, but I get what you're saying. Like, if you're breaking it down into just pure numbers and not lives, it means something. Like, you know what I mean? I just want to be like, I'm Thanos and destroy everything. And like twirl his mustache. Like, he has to have like a reason for it. Yeah.
But you know what's the funny thing about that is it's like the quote, madness and genius. Can you really tell the difference? Yeah. You know what I mean? So when they say the Mad Titan, it's like it may sound like an insult to some people, but to a lot of us, like who realize that, like, you know, Benjamin Franklin, quote unquote, held a key onto a kite. Held a key onto a kite. To a lot of people, that may seem like madness, but to a lot of us, we're like, that seems like genius. Yeah. So I get that, like, I get that people would call him like mad, but like, let's be completely honest about it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, honest to Odin, it's just he's better than people give him credit for. Like, just because you think he's mad doesn't necessarily mean what he is doing isn't genius. So, and let's be honest, he also has $1 billion fucking smile.
Oh, yeah. Let me get
like,
that.
Thanos easily has the best smile in the business. Like, no one has a better smile than Thanos. And I love the fact that after the Guardians of the Galaxy, where he sits back in the throne and pretty much tells everyone, and Nebula goes, that didn't work out the way you thought it would, did it? If Thanos is just back in his throne, kind of looking back at him, smiling like, yeah, what the fuck you gonna do about it?
Yeah. I always like that line, I will bathe the starways in your blood.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite boy.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Dude, like it's funny because I think I might have even said it to you. I wasn't that excited about Infinity War until I saw the most recent trailer. And then I saw that trailer and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm excited now.
Mm-hmm. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I just think I'm just happy to live in a world where we have good superhero movies, and I really hope that this whole Marvel, Disney, Fox thing really pays off, because I have, going back to Fantastic Four for a second, I have a really good idea for how they can incorporate the Fantastic Four into the MCU. Hear me out. This is what I would do. The Fantastic Four, they've always been there. Once upon a time in the 1960s, they were sort of like the celebrity scientists, because I feel like they would have been like the Reed Richards would have been the Neil deGrasse Tyson of like the 60s, and you would see him on talk shows, because back in the 60s you would have had more people like writers being like celebrities, so you would kind of have him on various talk shows, and then
also people forget that Reed Richards is actually vastly older than Sue Storm is.
Yes, that's right. So what I was thinking was that, so like him and, but the Fantastic Four is like established. And so they go on this journey for the first time. They're going to be traveling interdimensionally. And so they're saying, well, for us, we'll be gone for, say, this and this time period. We'll be gone for a year. But for Earth, it'll be instantaneous. So then they go, and they don't come back. And so, but when they do, and you could have your own side movie of them being in the negative zone, going on adventures and shit. And when they finally make it back to Earth, it's not 1968, it's 2018. And so that would...
And let's also point out that Annihilus is one of those characters. Like, if we're not gonna do Doctor Doom. Let's cut that out. The Fantastic Four has a X-Men level catalog of villains.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that let's do Annihilus. And you are 100% right. I would love the idea of them going to the negative zone and finding Annihilus, who is a bad motherfucker.
Right. But I think how great would it be if you had these characters who were like from the 60s, and so you can kind of have a cool Catman out of time. So then their technology, right, the technology that Reed Richards makes is like how people in the 60s thought the future would look. Like, it's retro futuristic. And now I just sent you a picture of Elizabeth Banks. That's who I would cast as Sue Storm.
Oh my God, yes, Elizabeth Banks as Susan Storm is actually perfect.
Like, and even with that picture, she kind of looks like she could have like time traveled from the 1960s.
Yeah, she has she could pull off the Bombshell look perfectly.
Like, so anyway, that's my little, if I were working at Marvel, that's how I would bring in the Fantastic Four.
Can I also say that I will openly admit this, that when they cast, who they cast as Hela again? Because I'm terrible with actor and actress's name.
Cate Blanchett. When
they cast Cate Blanchett as Hela, my exact words to you were, "This is a terrible idea. She's not as Hela not as hot as Hela used to be." And then you show me some images, and I'm like, "Man, I don't believe it." And then when she played Hela, I was like, "Oh my God, she is sexy as hell."
Yeah.
So I just want to just say on air that you were right.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I got super excited when they cast her as Hela.
And just Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa in the Power Rangers
she was amazing.
Movie. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Like, she played the role of it well. She played crazed alien, alien. Would despot be the right word for her? What she? Yeah, like crazed alien, like despot, like great. And I don't think Elizabeth Banks gets enough credit for what she does.
That whole movie doesn't get enough credit because I really enjoyed. Because I was ready. You know what the best thing about Power Rangers for me? I was ready to shit on that movie, and I couldn't because I fucking loved it.
One of the best things about it was, and I wrote an article about it a year or so ago, was about how they handled the Yellow Ranger being gay without making it awkward.
Right. Yeah, I agree. No, it was really well done.
And it was just like, I'm glad that they didn't make the Black Ranger black. I like that they addressed the fact that, like, you're not black. He goes, oh, yes, I am. And it was funny. It was cute. They made the Blue Ranger slightly on the spectrum without making him, like
we weren't making fun. Yeah, like we weren't making fun of him and his condition.
So everything, and I hope they do another one, but I don't think people really appreciated how good the Power Rangers movie was. And I think Elizabeth Banks should get a lot of props for what she's done. Just in general, man, like her role in Scrubs, her role in...
Oh, God, yeah. Even the Hunger Games, I thought she was a great... I forget her character's name.
Let it's forever be in your favor. Like, you know what I mean?
She was great.
And she was. And then,
and
like, the whole...
30 Rock.
Yeah. Like, she can pretty much do it all. Like, I wouldn't be mad at her playing Sue Storm to be... Like, we just talked about that. I wouldn't be mad at her playing another role either other than Sue Storm, man. Like, she could be... what's her name? Beast's ex-girlfriend reporter, Trish Tilson?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She'd be a really good Trish Tilson. She'd make a really good older Gwen Stacy.
Yeah. I think that what I like about Elizabeth Banks is that she's talented, she's beautiful, and she also is intelligent, which I think is all the things you need for Sue Storm.
And that's when I really want them to go with the ultimate version of Sue Storm, who was like a genius biologist.
Yeah.
Who was more than just, like, for the lack of a better term, for what? The Fantastic Four have been around since the 60s.
Yep.
So we'll say for about 30 years, she was eye candy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We need a Sue Storm who's more than just eye candy. We need a strong woman. We need the woman who knocked out the fucking Hulk.
Right.
You know what I mean? We need the woman who, like, Black Panther was enamored with. You know what I mean? Like, we need someone who's going to portray one of the strongest women in Marvel characters. Just, like, you know what I mean? Marvel characters, period.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people always, like, I love Storm. I love Storm to death. But I think Sue Storm, Aurora Monroe, and Kitty Pryde are three of the strongest women in Marvel, and they aren't given the credit for it. I think Layla Miller has them all beat for what she's been through, but that's another conversation for another day.
Right. No, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff. A lot of good things that are happening and could happen. And I would love to know how they would try to introduce the notion of mutants into the MCU.
I have a theory on how they should do that.
Yeah?
And they don't even have to show a face. At the end of Infinity Wars 2, the post-credit scene should just be some random thing where, like, a portal opens, and then you don't see anybody. All you hear is, it smells weird in here.
Yeah.
Snicked, and then it ends.
Yeah.
That's it. You just use Hugh Jackman's voice, like just him sniffing in the air. It smells weird in here. You hear the snicked voice. You hear the snicked. You see the claws, and that's it. Like, you know what I mean?
You know what I would do? I think would be kind of cool if. Do you remember when House of M ended? Wolverine said, "I remember everything."
Yes.
Or even have it with Cap, like being like oh, I remember a boy in one of the concentration camps who could move metal. I remember serving with some nutbag named Logan on a side mission. Like, you know, like, I don't know, number of different ways you could do it.
We could. Have you seen the previews for the new Roseanne movie, new Roseanne show?
No, but I'm pumped for a Roseanne movie.
There's a scene from the Roseanne show where Dan has a face mask on, and Roseanne goes, "Dan, wake up!" He goes, and Dan goes, "What?" And Roseanne goes, I had a dream you were dead." And then Dan takes his breathing mask off and goes, "Why does everyone think I'm dead?"
That's brilliant.
I think that should be one of the things. It's like, why does everyone? It's just like a random joke where it's like, oh, mutants. What are mutants? I'm like, seriously, mutants have been around since 2000.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those things. Just like we don't even need to explain it, because let's be honest, Days of the Future Past was a great movie.
Yep.
And you know what we did not need? We did not need an explanation to why Charles Xavier was around.
No, we didn't. How he survived, like none of that.
Like, who cares? He was around. It happened. Done and done.
It was an illusion. Charles Xavier made you see something that wasn't happening. I don't know. Yeah, no, I think it'd be great, especially if like mutants was like a what do you call it? A almost like a rumor. Like, have you heard this rumor about people, you know?
Kind of like it's like there's Inhumans, but it's like not only are there Inhumans, but there's this other sect of like superpower beings that we just never talked about. And honestly, they could do it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and no one would care.
Yeah. And my dog's throwing up. See? I told you not to chew on that shit. Well, that might be a good time to wrap this up. Because I now have some cleaning to do. As always, though, you all know the drill. Check out Mark's podcast. Mark, why don't you tell us about what your podcast and where we can find it?
You can find me at The Old Man Wade Show. If you Google Old Man Wade Show on Podbean, you'll find me. If you Google The Old Man Wade Show on iTunes, you'll find me. SoundCloud, it's a bit more difficult, but I'm also on SoundCloud. But if you just look it up, there are always links from Podbean to the SoundCloud, so you'll always be able to find me there. We talk about everything from comic books. We talk a little bit about politics without bashing Republicans or Democrats, because honestly, both sides are both a bunch of fucking idiots. We talk about everything, man. We talk about relationships. We talk about comic books. We talk about love. We talk about everything, man. And that's what we're here to do.
And y'all know the drill with ChronoSpeakeasy.com, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Wednesday Comic Podcast at gmail.com. As always.
Do me a favor, Paul.
Yes.
Can you spell Chrono Speak Easy for those who may not get it?
Oh, good point. K as in Kilo, R as in Romeo, O as in Oscar, N as in Navy, O as in Oscar, S as in Sierra. So that's how you spell Chronos, and then speakeasy.com. Yeah. Enjoy your issues.